Hi, good evening. I'd like to welcome you to Poem Praise 2. We're going to move right along and breaking the chains of psychological slavery. We are in chapter 2. The section is Umoja, or unity. Now, Umoja is the Swahili word for unity. It may refer to Umoja, Kenya, an all-female village founded on the principles of women's rights. Umoja, Nairobi, a suburb of Nairobi, the capital of Kenya. MV Umoja, a Lake Victoria ferry in East Africa. Umoja, a 60-class locomotive of the East African Railways. Now, for the book of Umoja, or Unity, reads as such. Now there is strength and solidarity with others who are seeking to break the chains. As we have discussed in earlier sections of this book, community division was one of the major weapons used against the slaves. The fact that so much effort has gone into making sure the slaves do not form a common identity is indicative of the value of such a common identity. As was demonstrated during the civil rights struggles of the late 60s, as well as the successful Million Man March of 1995. The most potent weapon that we have in developing any kind of independent freedom is through unity. Breaking the mental chains of the slave requires us to stand together despite the definitions of division that we have been given under the slave's consciousness. We have discussed in the previous chapter the impact of William Lynch Kit for the control of the slaves. As we gain greater knowledge and information, many of those divisions will disappear because they cannot stand under the light of truth and correct information. We must see our membership in religious groups, political groups, professions, academic groups, even in gender and class groups as being devices which can be and continue to be used to keep us divided and at war with each other. Although there are certainly issues on which we differ based upon the experiences in these various groups and categories, we must realize all of those differences are secondary when it comes to the reality of breaking the chains. We can do this more effectively if we begin by allying ourselves with other blacks in the various groups we find ourselves. When we stand together with other blacks in our religious and political groups, professions, or even gender groups, we find that we have much more in common as black members of those groups than we do with our non-black colleagues. This realization brings the point home very clearly that we must stand together on the basis of our racial realities. Once we are able to see the commonality of our issues in the groups when we have strong identities, then we'll be able to form coalitions with black people who are part of groups that we may know nothing or feel hostile towards. So different fraternity men stood together as black men at the Million Man March. Black Republicans, Democrats, and Socialists stood together. Black graduates from the Naval Academy and West Point stood together when they realized that unifying reality of being black men brought them together. In a similar vein, Maya Angelou Rosa Parks and Betty Shabazz all stood together in solidarity with Ben Chavis, Jesse Jackson, and Louis Farrakhan in recognition that even being called a man's march required them to unite regardless of gender. This is a kind of unity which is critical to obtaining mental liberation. As we have noted above in our discussion of courage, it is not possible to get free alone. The chains are very heavy and are interconnected, which requires us to free each other as we free ourselves. The frightening thing about unity for many of the slaves is the fact that they may lose special privileges that have been able to acquire by their uniqueness. They can sing, play some kind of ball, speak the language well, or they are one of those only blacks in some kind of organization. We know that many of these kinds of concerns vanish once we make the commitment to break the chains in our minds. With this commitment, we are no longer interested in holding on to minor slave privileges. On the other hand, however, there are unique talents and qualities which we all have. In the process of liberation, it is important to recognize that unity does not require uniformity. We can stand together and preserve our separate qualities which serve to enhance further the objectives of freeing ourselves and all of our people. We cannot break the chains unless we appreciate our unique form of enslavement while not permitting the uniqueness to impede our unity with others who are trying to get free. At the same time, as we free ourselves, we must adapt our special gifts to enhance the liberation process. In the process of uniting, we bring our special gifts to the total process of breaking the chains. If you sing, then sing freedom songs. If you play ball, then play freedom ball. If you tell jokes, laugh while you breaking the chains of Dick Gregory and Bill Cosby have done. Never let your unique gift be used to keep yourself and the remainder of our people in slavery. In fact, this is one of the most popular strategies. There are so many musicians, comedians, and scholars who are rewarded for bringing messages which continue to tighten the mental chains. Yeah, let that sink in for a minute. I'm going to repeat that one again, that there are so many musicians, comedians, and scholars who are rewarded for bringing messages which continue to tighten the mental chains. The same special use that our captors make of our gifts, we can use to further our mental liberation. The key to the power of unity in this liberation process is that we must avoid the danger of letting ourselves be used to impede the freedom process. In these later days of the 20th century, this is the major strategy of battle against our liberation. In a similar vein, we must appreciate the power of unity as the major instrument to break the chains which continue to inhibit our minds. Now that does complete Umoja, our unity section of chapter 2 of breaking the chains of psychological slavery, liberation from mental slavery. Now, the next section, just to give you a preview of what's coming up next, is going to be evidence of things unseen. Evidence of things unseen. So certainly stay tuned to Poem Praise 2 for the next section. I hope that peace and blessings have been upon you this day, and may it go and be upon you in the future too. To you, from me, here on Poem Praise 2. Be encouraged and be blessed. And I'll holler at you later, y'all.